I came to Newport Harbor after going to Newport Elementary School, so I walked to school barefooted for the first few years. And it was a great honor to be at this high school because this put everything on the ground for me the rest of my life. And I appreciate everything that the high school has done for me. Thank you very much.
It's such an honor to be here today, and so I'm very happy about all that. I didn't know I did that stuff, so. So again, thank you so much.
Oh, Greg and Barbara are so excited about this. They're away filming in Hawaii.
Oh, we should go there.
I know. But they just loved their high school experience here and really molded them. Molded me too.
Okay, I'd like to honor this artistic visionary. We are glad to have Peter Jason, class of 1962, and fellow success in the entertainment industry as an actor, receive this award in his stead.
Well, I'm much more handsome than Frank, so he sent me. He's my director, and we've done 8 movies together, and we both went to school here. We were both fired from the Newport Players for laughing too much at Mr. Robbins. And that was our start. He's down in New Orleans right now doing the new Jurassic Park film, so he couldn't make it. He was thrilled to get this honor, to be in the gang with everybody here. Another fellow thespian, Anthony Zerbe, and the family of the Yardleys that are here, who are, George Yardley was a hero of mine. And I love being here at Newport Harbor, class of 62. Hey, oh, Alabama. I still know the whole deal. I'll save you. But Frank was really totally honored by this, and he thanks you very much.
I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I was going to send my husband because we have a 2-week-old baby girl. But it's an honor for me to be standing up here and to see all the TARs that came before me. I lead Sailor Pride. I love it. And we have so many Olympians that have come from this school. And I just want to thank, I know Coach Glenn's here, who's my volleyball coach, Coach Dwight, when I do track. Just want to thank the faculty here because you really shape these young people into doing great things. And I'm just overwhelmed reading the bios of everyone that came before me here at this great high school. And want to thank the Alumni Association for putting this on. And I hope to be here, celebrating all the honorees from this point forward. I just want to thank the community and everyone, and go Sailors.
Thank you very much for this honor. I feel that very small in comparison to all the celebrities that we have here. And I would also like to thank Diana Long for my nomination and for spreading words to all the vernaculars around here, and to all the newspapers around here, and to the vernacular Gakushipo, which is a Japanese newspaper. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone who's here. Just quite an extreme group here that I feel like a child in a land of adults. But I want to thank, first of all, Sean Bolton, for the man who came up with the idea to do this Hall of Fame recognition. Because this school, as you know, in its 80 or 90-year existence, has produced a number of people with completed wonderful things. as I did. And I owe one guy, above all, for teaching me how to be a young man with goals, with the ability to stick to things, fight to the end. And this guy's our who I'm blessed with. I always say, if everyone who Al had a positive influence on during his career were invited to one place at one time, they would probably fill the Coliseum. And that's true. Thank you so much for this award. I thank my family for coming.
Well, it's an honor for me to be here amongst all these wonderful folks. I have to say, Jim Seeley, I've talked to him twice this week, and he was very sorry that he couldn't make it. His wife is undergoing some health problems, cancer. She's at Bethesda Hospital. Jim couldn't make it, but he wanted to make sure that everybody knew how much he appreciated this and what an honor it is for him to receive this. I'd also like to say, Al Irwin's been one of my mentors for many, many years. I was able to swim for him for 4 years here at Auburn, and lifeguarded with him for a number of years down on the beach, and he's still one of my best friends.
I just wanted to thank everyone in the Alumni Association on behalf of our entire family who's here today. My dad would have been so honored to have this award. Newport Harbor would have meant so much to him. And he would have had some crazy off-color or funny joke. But I'm not going to do that to you. Thank you very much.
What an actor, care to say a few words. I am being represented by old actors don't die, they just change agents. I was thinking coming down here 60 years ago, man. 60 years ago I was on this stage. It was a different theater format. I was on the stage with my best and dearest friend, the man that's being honored today, my guru, my teacher, friend to many, inspiration to all, Robert B. Wentz. And a very sprightly, powerful young man, it seemed to me, who was the coach of the track and football and everything. His name was Al Irwin. He was always up front, you know, hi, how you doing there? Hi, and taking care of everybody. It's amazing. You look great. You're amazing. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to thank Newport Harbor, because those were formative years, from 14 to 18, and formative years real important. And what I want to thank you most for, and the spirits of the work, were the girls. The girls in Newport Harbor from 52 to 50. They were amazing. I can't speak for other schools because I didn't go to them, but I didn't need to. And so I congratulate the ladies from 1952, 1951, 52, 53, 54. They were wonderful.
Things that I was going to tell. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that you might not have known. He was a teacher, first of all. And when he changed his mind from being an engineer, I think it was a good idea. He started his work at Morgan Hill, and he had a class of surveyors. So he took them out and they built a road that is still there. He believed in learning by doing. He also believed in obeying rules. And Morgan Hill had never had a championship basketball team, but they were in line for it the second year of his being their coach. The young man who was the head, or the best player, decided to take his girl in his own car instead of going by bus with the team. He stayed on the bench, and they lost the championship. The next year, everyone went on the bus.
Just a couple things. One, I never had the pleasure of meeting the man, but just when he first came in here tonight, Al Irwin leaned over to me and said he was the best. And if Al Irwin says he was the best, then he must have been the best. That's all I can tell you about that. One thing, if you get a chance to go through Heritage Hall, I was lucky enough to all the stuff, it's amazing the stuff he kept and saved, and pictures he took, and basically the biography he did of this school for the 30s, 40s, and 50s. There are so many pictures and so many things, and I just took some more from my office the other day. He would find anything, a poster that was on the wall, he'd take it off and he'd write results. And so if you ever did anything from 1933 to 1956, I can find your name on the decathlon that he created and those things. So on behalf of all the coaches who have ever coached at Newport Harbor High School, what he started 85 years ago, I'm just glad to say we've been able to keep that tradition, and I thank you.
I'm pleased to accept this on his behalf. When Jim and I were working on the art collection back in the mid-'80s, we had the opportunity to meet Ruth, and I can tell you based on that meeting that even if she were alive today, she never would have gotten on this stage to accept this award on her behalf. She was humble, reserved, a woman with very few words. As a school board member, I don't share those virtues, so I am pleased to be here for her, and I encourage you to go over and visit the collection in the library, because those paintings and the impact they've had on students for generations truly are her legacy.
While Mr. Wentz may be the last honor today, he's first in the hearts of many of his students and those who have the pleasure to work with him. By the time I started at Newport in 1982, Mr. Wentz had already been elevated to the level of legend. And because of other great teachers like Mr. Joe Swift and Gail Brower, who would bring Mr. Wentz back and have him interact with the students, it was truly remarkable. He was a very passionate and dedicated and just life-affirming man who would teach us the joy of acting. And for some of us, I also realized they don't have the ability to act. But I can say this, it was because of his great influence that many of the people on the stage here, many people in the audience today, went on to pursue amazing careers as directors and actors. Many of the people that are honored would tell you that they, especially those in the performing arts, it's because of Mr. Wentz. And that type of just amazing legacy is rippled through the amazing teachers that we had here in all the different disciplines at Newport Harbor. I'd like to say just a couple of quick things. There are people, Anthony Zerbe and Paul Amatt and Stuart Cooper, who's here, who really make sure that Mr. Wentz had a good end to his life. And a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady, a true angel, Leslie Holland, who took care of Mr. Wentz the last few years of his life. Really, it was just remarkable. I'd also like to thank Judy Franco and others who were on the board at that time who had the vision to name this theater after Mr. Wentz. So I'm very proud and humbled to receive on his behalf. Thank you very much.
Albert Irwin, May of 35. Actually 36. Well, wait a minute now. 36.
You're pretty good. I can't keep track of the decades.
I'm getting a little short.
Do you have one specific memory in high school that's like your happiest time or the most memorable?
Yes, I came from a beach town. Up until the 6th grade, I was barefoot. And we lived on the ocean front. I lived in the Port Pier. My dad was a realtor. He died when I was 2 years old. My mother took care of us and clear up until 1954, until she passed away. I don't know how, why, or where, but I got a scholarship to the University of Pacific in Stockton, California. I was the first family of ours, which amounted to about 70 people, to go on even to high school, and not any of them went on to college. I graduated from Pacific, and you want me to go on?
Sure.
I graduated. I played football 4 years up there. Last year I was the most valuable player on that team. And I played for the famous Amos Alonzo Stagg. After I went through and got into graduate work and everything, I was one of his coaches for 1 year, which was a real privilege for me. But I went into the service, and the year the war broke out in 42, 41, whatever it was, and I taught swimmers, non-swimmers how to swim during the war that year. Went to Schenectady, New York, the University at Union College, where I taught cadets how to survive in the service under conditions, and then the Union Princeton University for 6 months doing the same thing with cadets coming in. And from there I told my wife that I'm sick and tired. I haven't been home for a year. Just during the war. And so let's see what we can do for you. I got orders 2 weeks later to report to San Francisco and catch the nurses ship of 500 nurses going to Hawaii. And then from there, I caught the battleship Missouri on its shakedown cruise to go to the Pacific. And I caught the University of Lexington. And I was fast moving. And so when I had to report to the Lexington, I was down 4 decks. Skipper was down on the 4th deck. He looked at me and he looked at me and looked at me. He said, "What the hell are you doing on that aircraft carrier?" I said, "Well, what do you want to do? What do you like?" I had no background. And I said, "Well, number one, I like lots of exercise. I like a lot of activities. I'm willing to do anything." Okay. Report to Bud Deere on the flight deck of the airplane carrier. And so I go up and report to Bud. Bud's the full lieutenant, and he was in charge of the flight deck. And I was his assistant. After 17 days, this is during the war, he came up to me and said, "Congratulations, Al." I said, "For what?" He says, "I've got shore leave." I said, "Oh, geez, you lift me with a hump." "Yeah," he says, "you're a trick in my place." And I've been there. I got 73 airplanes on board.
Wow.
I've got 80, 70 deckhands for everything. And so that's what I stayed on. I stayed on for them. So I was in Lexington and the battleship Missouri, which I'd been on, was where armistice was signed. And a month later, I was caught cruising. The skipper came up to me and said, tell me how great it was and time of peace to be on an aircraft carrier or just cruising up and down the Japanese coast. And he said, we'd like for you to stay on. I said, oh, I'd like to go home. So that was my, yeah, it was right back to Newport Beach.
What was it like to come back to Newport Harbor High School as a teacher after having been a student?
Yeah, I go back and I'd like to coach. So I go back to Pacific and get my teaching credentials. And took me 2 sessions of summer school. I guess that's all. Then I went to, where'd I go, Marcia?
I think you went to
Antioch High School.
Antioch.
Northern California.
And then you went to Placentia,
And then
Valencia
I
High
went to
School.
Valencia High School.
And then your
Placentia.
dream came true.
And the next year, I came 48.
Came back to Harvard.
Back home, that's
Well, we're
awesome.
glad you
So I
came
made
back.
the rounds. And
Yeah.
I didn't get killed. I had a daughter. Well, you were born up there.
No, I was, yeah, I was. I can't talk.
So our kids today, they have certain movie stars they like and certain kinds of music. What was the music like in the 30s? And what were the famous movie stars?
Oh, the old Bell Bottoms Hop.
That was his dance.
Bell
Okay.
Oh, God, that became a state of California's honored state or something.
And what was your favorite music?
Oh, I don't know. Clarinet.
Oh, clarinet.
Benny Goodman.
Yeah.
Danny Goodman, the big band era, probably.
But I was fortunate enough to come home and get at Newport Harbor High School. I bounced up the rendezvous at midnight. Stayed there.
If you could give the students graduating today a little piece of advice, one thing to carry on with them as they graduate, what advice would you give the students today?
I was a poor student. And I was fortunate enough to really to get into a junior. But, a friend of mine had gone to Cherokee, had graduated from Newport and gone up to Pacific. And when I graduated, or I was in the graduating process, Jerry called me at midnight one night and said they're offering you a full scholarship. I didn't even know what a full scholarship was, but I wanted to play. But so I was midnight, 11 o'clock night. I was on my road to Stockton, California, within 2 hours. And that was the start, really, of my career. I played freshman football. And next year I played with the legendary Amos Longs of Stagg. I was most valuable player of my senior year. And I had got my teaching credentials and get out home.
You've had a lot of good memories.
Yeah,
Well, we're certainly honored to have you in the Hall of Fame. Go ahead.
Can you share any memory about Ralph Reed with us?
Ralph Reed,
What was he like as a
I
coach?
can tell you so many.
Tell them about
He
the
was the original here.
Yeah.
He was a PE teacher, coach. He coached football, he coached track, and he coached baseball.
What about the big event to the Back Bay?
What's that?
The big event to the Back Bay.
Oh, we got run, we call them Bay Hunt or something strange on campus with everybody, every class. As you in first period, you started off that day. You ran to 16th Street, turned down 6th Street to the Bay, and that was that time there was a little camp there with the bridge, and they had two barges out there for visiting people. He moved them 25 yards apart. Every kid ran down that 1.5 miles to the bay, swam out to the barge, and then swam from barge to barge, and then come out and run back to the school. It was about a 3-mile deal all together. Always, any kid going through the PE class
had to do that.
And his thing is a big wall, nothing except what every kid in every period did, how far I put the shot put, the discus and those, football throw for distance, all the track events. Your name was up there, and you got the number of points you got, and that PE class was that particular thing. Well, he's also smart because now he's finding people for his actual teams.
Yeah. Good.
And he did that by in my school's case, Newport Beach Grammar School, he came down with a school bus from the high school, picked up all 8th graders for the last class of the grammar school day, took us back up to Newport High School. We had a group of 10 seniors coaching us in football, basketball, baseball, track, tennis, the whole thing.
Smart.
So that by the time I got to Newport as a freshman, I could do all of those things. And some of them I could do well, and others I couldn't. But that's what got me started.
You did quite a few things well.
And that's why I was so happy to come back down eventually in 48 to coach. Came back in 1948.
Well, you're a living legend, Al, and we're glad that you could come.
And everything just fell in place for me. And Orange Coast College called me when they had a football vacancy, and I went there for 8 years. The state championship with a Yale leader. Bakersfield.
You had a good eye for talent.
Yeah, she was following me.
Trying to keep up.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
You're very wonderful.
Well,
we're very proud to have you as a...
I came from I didn't come from a poor neighborhood. I came from a medium Newport. And in those days, I always called them, my mother finished 3rd grade.
Yeah.
My dad passed away when I was just 2 months old. So she raised 2 boys, and 2 boys could raise a lot of age,
Oh, yeah.
and living in upstairs.
We've heard about you.
You heard about it. You know where Blackies is?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my dad built that building.
Is that right?
Yeah, you look up in the ocean front, look up where the stairwell goes up, it says Irwin Building, 1921. That's
Yeah.
where I lived.
That's history, almost 100 years ago.
I lived there for 20 years.
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Hi, I'm Misty May Trainer, and I was class of 1995 here at Newport Harbor High School.
Thank you for taking the time to be interviewed today, Misty. And we'd like to ask you a few questions, and we don't want to keep you too long. But could we start with just an overall, what was your happiest moment here at Harbor High School?
There were a lot of great memories for me here at Newport Harbor High School, and I think it was an amazing educational system to go through. My cousin had gone here, and just the people I met. I'm still friends with a lot of my classmates. They always had activities for the students. I think the faculty is one of the best because not only are they teaching us, but they really care about you as people and care about, you know, helping you to become the best that you can. And I really had a great experience on the athletic field, in the classroom, and then just with my peers.
Along those lines, you know, who are the teachers or coaches that, you know, influenced you in particular?
Oh gosh, I mean, I had so many different teachers, and from biology teachers to marine biology to English, and then of course all the coaches. I had Coach Dwight for track, I had Coach Glenn for volleyball, and then I played soccer until my junior year. But I mean, you couldn't go wrong with anybody. You couldn't go wrong with anybody. I know Coach Glenn was very hard on us, but it only made it easier when, you know, you get into the real world. It's like, okay, it wasn't so bad. You know, he's making it difficult for a reason. But it really took everybody kind of pulling together and banding together to really excel the students.
Okay, you've been asked to give a 1-minute graduation speech. What would be the advice you would give the graduating class of 2014 if you had 1 minute? What would be the most important thing you think you would say?
Oh gosh, if I had 1 minute, I think to respect the people around you. There's going to be people that you're walking with in graduation that you might not even know went to your school, went to the school. Just to treat everybody with kindness, because you don't know if they're going to be your boss one day, when you're going to run into them again, and it's really the relationships that you make that will last a lifetime.
So we know you get asked this question all of the time, but we just want to have it here for our heritage as well. So, you know, what was the question here is, what are the highlights of your life after graduation? And other than your beautiful new daughter, what is it like to win the gold medals in the Olympics?
When I went to Newport, I didn't really expect to be an Olympian. I didn't see myself as an Olympian until I was a sophomore in college, and I thought I'd be playing indoor a lot longer than beach volleyball. But to win gold medals, I mean, that's an accomplishment because that's what you're setting your athletic career, especially on my end, to do. That's like the pinnacle of our sport. Graduating, obviously, is the pinnacle of your high school. You're like, okay, I'm doing everything I can to get that diploma. But, I mean, there's, like you said, now that I have a daughter, that's like the highlight for me. The gold medals was all the sweat and the hard work that I put in on the athletic field, and it all, you know, started even before Newport, but then Newport was a carryover of that hard work and the CIF championships, state championships, to kind of build that stairway to the Olympic medal.
On the way over here, I asked you if which was harder, giving birth or winning a gold medal, and your answer was wonderful.
Well, I mean, giving birth, you can be told what to expect, and until you go through it, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, now I know what my mom, you know, went through. Whereas the Olympics, because you're playing sports, you kind of already know, you know, the work you have to put in and, you know, what's going to come along with it. But being a mom, I don't think there's anything better, you know, and I think the prize that you get at the end is better.
How about, what does being inducted into the Hall of Fame today mean to you?
When I got the call that I was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I felt it was a true honor, and especially being in the first class of honorees to be inducted. I felt very humble up there because you see all the teachers and all the students that came before my time, their accomplishments, and I was joking around, but I was like, I think I'm one of the few that didn't serve in the military. But no, you have from great actors to, you know, artists, and it's just neat to learn the history of the school and the history of the alumni that went to Newport Harbor, because I think we're all very proud of where we came from.
Well, we're proud to have you as an inductee this year.
Thank you.
To be part of the committee.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time.
No problem. Stars are stars. Go Sailors.
My name's Jim Newkirk. I graduated from Newport Harbor High School in 1955. I entered as an immature freshman and graduated as an immature senior. But the school was just my life, and I loved it. Anyway, I went on to college at Orange Coast College and then to San Luis Obispo, and decided to come back to the Newport Harbor area from San Luis Obispo and get a teaching credential. So I did, and I was hired at the school in 1964. And I taught here at the school for 18 years, until 1982, and stayed on as a cross-country coach for another 5 or 6 years. And after I left Newport High, I went off and did some business ventures, but always stayed in touch with the school. So you want me to go further?
No.
Keep going, or? Nope, you got questions?
Thinking back about Newport, do you have like one moment of time that was like your happiest or your most memorable moment here at the school?
No, I can't think of one.
They're all, they kind of blend, don't they?
Yes, I was on a number of athletic teams, and we had some big victories. Those were always terrific after the games to celebrate.
Is there a particular teacher or coach that you remember?
There's one teacher in particular that I do remember, and that's Fabian Giroux. He wasn't my teacher, but he was a teacher when I became a teacher. And somehow I got close to him, and he was one of my mentors on how to become a good teacher. And back in school, if I had a favorite teacher, it's hard to choose. I had a number of them. Bob Wentz, of course, was a wonderful guy that helped me in his 2 years I took of drama to become confident, speak in front of people, be on stage. Webb Jones, of course, was a great influence on me. He made me like to learn math, which I didn't like to study very much, but he made me study to get through the class. I had Paul Caldwell was my Spanish teacher, and Paul, his personality made it such that he taught Spanish not as a hard-edged academic course, but as a conversation kind of course, and I did learn how to speak Spanish. Came in handy a little bit later on. I began hiring people, spoke Spanish, and I could communicate with them. Others, no, I just had a number of good ones.
If they said, okay, Jim, you have 60 seconds to give a graduation remark to these seniors this year, 2014, what would be the advice you'd want to give them in the 60 seconds?
Well, I think the advice I would give them would be to go to school first. A lot of kids I know want to graduate and they'll spend a year here or a year there doing something, sign a baseball contract. Get it out of the way early in your life. Study hard, because later on in your life you're going to have tremendous opportunities to do things, to meet people, to go places. If you have to go back to school in order to finish your degree or something like that, that would be my advice. Just to go for it. I know you're young and I know you're carefree. I know you have a lot of places to go. You're going to have a big, long life to go there. That would be the best advice I could give these kids. Do it early.
So you mentioned the baseball contract. So you were an amazing athlete in high school and afterwards, but One of the reasons you're being honored today is for your interest in your conservation of the art here on campus. So what got you interested in arts, from going from sports to arts? What was that connection?
Very specific instance. I was playing baseball after I got out of school, pretty much all school. And I had a chance to become a professional baseball player at a very small amount of money, and I decided not to do it. I wanted to establish myself first. But I did play while I was teaching school. I did play on the semi-pro team, which we played every Sunday with various towns in Santa Ana and Fullerton and so on. And stop here for a second, I lost my train of thought. Oh, the art, yeah. And I met a guy, my catcher on the baseball team, his name was Gene Crane. And Gene invited us to his house one time for a party after a game that we had won. And I began looking around his house, and I saw these pieces of art on his walls, and I just fell in love with them. I just thought, these are the greatest things I've seen. And so I asked him, who are they? And he told me about Rex Brandt and Phil Dyke and Millard Sheets and some of the more local California, Southern California artists. And so whenever I had a chance, I would buy one, $200 or $100 or something like that.
Even when you were a beginning teacher?
Even when I was a beginning teacher, yeah. And it didn't come very often because you couldn't find very many for $100 or $200. And then eventually, after I left teaching and acquired more wherewithal to be able to buy more art, I began spreading my wings. And then I got involved with this. John McGinnis called me up and said, we're going to research or put together this Restore Fleming collection. Would you be interested in chairing the committee? I said, yes. So from there.
Well, and why do you think personally, why do you think it's worth it to preserve art and to preserve, historical things like the WPA mosaics on campus? Why is that important?
Oh, I think the legacy of those people need to be preserved for future generations to let them know, just like you go back to the 12th century and see a Giotto painting, very, very amateurish compared to what went on later in the Renaissance. And it's the same thing here. You see what these folks did back in the 30s and 20s. You want to preserve it. Art is not for necessarily personal consumption. I think it's for consumption. You should try everything you can to let your art out, to be seen by other people.
Okay. For the record and just for the camera, would you tell us how it feels or what your feelings are in being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Very surprised in a way, because I remember when my name was brought up, somebody told me about it. I said, oh, come on. There's a lot more important people out there than I am. And this person sat there and convinced me that I was maybe pretty important. With some of the projects I had funded, some of the buildings I had built, some of the sports teams I had funded. And so I was happy, and I said, I fit there. It's serious. I felt confident. I'm glad I was with them. There are a variety of people today, from sailors to Army to actors, painters, pioneers in the field of education. So I feel equal.
So do I, Jim. I've known you personally for a long time and talked with you, and you definitely belong in the Hall of Fame, and we're honored to have you. So thank you for taking your time with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My name is Anthony Zerbe, and I graduated in 1954, which is a long time ago, 60 years ago. It seems like yesterday, looking at you.
So, is there one particular moment when you were here that sticks out as like, that was my peak moment or my happiest moment, or?
Yeah, I would say peak moment, happiest moment, most inspired moment, all turned into one. It's when I was a freshman, and I went to the sock hop, and there were all these, and in those days, the girls all wore uniforms, so they all had to wear sweaters. And these freshman girls were endowed.
Yes, they were.
Naturally endowed and beautifully endowed. And I was a freshman, and between me and this whole array of beautiful girls was a basketball court, because we were in the gymnasium. Did you see me just swallow just that? I'm swallowing at the thought of it.
The nerve.
And all I had to do was walk across, not the breadth, not the length of the basketball court, but the width of it, go past the circles and the lines, walk over to any one of these beautiful girls, say, would you like to dance? And they would say yes. And then I would take them and press their bodies next to mine and start moving. Now, granted, we were moving to music, but it was still rhythmic. I don't know if any of the teachers or any of the superintendents or anything realized what they were setting us up for. But I mean, the mere physical fact, that's what happened. And if you're asking me, were there a moment that was greater than that at Newport Harbor? Not even close.
Hard to imagine.
Yeah, a pale second.
So that history lecture didn't do it for you.
No, or physics didn't. No. It was the gymnasium. I can still smell the wax.
Yeah, right.
It was called a sock hop, and they played records. But can you imagine that happening? That happened. I mean, God, the poor girls, did they feel violated? I didn't.
You were thrilled.
Well, thank you. Would you like to dance?
Yeah. Most boys didn't have the courage to ask, so you were a bit ahead of your time.
Along those lines sorry, go ahead.
Yes.
I was going to say, along those lines from those times, what teachers or coaches or whatever most affected you?
Yeah. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be, except to appear in the gym on Friday afternoon. And then I thought I'd be a lawyer because I love language, kind of. But God, you're 14, 15, 16. So when I had never seen a play in my life. And then I was introduced to theater by this great teacher, Robert Brayton Wentz is his whole name, who then introduced me to theater. I then went to New York. Another student, Mike Lane, and myself went to New York with Bob for a week and saw all these plays. It was amazing. And the first play I saw was Picnic with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, played in minor roles. And I went in thinking I'd be a lawyer, walked out saying, this is it, I'm going to do this. I got to do this. And then I spent my whole senior year with Bob. And at that year, you could only take one semester of theater. That's all. So I said, this is crazy. Why? I need to be every. So he used to sign a thing for me every day to get me out of study hall. I purposely took a study hall, and then he'd send a slip down, and that would bring me up to the. So he let me assist him, and we made a little movie, which was the first time movies were 16mm camera. High schools never even dreamed of that. Yeah. And we wrote it, and I wrote it with him, and then I was in it, played the heavy naturally, and cut it and everything. So he became my lifelong friend. He was the best man at my wedding, and we went to Europe a couple of times. And it's just he was, and it wasn't like I was the exception, He influenced everybody he came in touch with. He had this total gregarious person, but not overweening, great listener, because God knows 17-year-olds talk, even 78-year-olds talk, and he was just totally open, available, interested, and it wasn't feigned. He was just there, and I'll always love him, and it's just the best. God.
He continued doing that, taking kids to Europe in his 70s.
Right.
He never stopped.
And Stuart Cooper, who came down with me today, a wonderful film director. He was there, Paul and Matt. And Bob sent him, when Paul came here, before he went to Vietnam, Bob sent him down to see me play Shakespeare. I was playing Coriolanus at the Old Globe Theater. And he came in and he was in a sailor suit. He said, Bob told me to come see you. And then a year later, I was doing Iago, and he came back from Vietnam. I'm back. He said, what do I do now?
Wow.
I said, go to New York. And then he came out here, and then he started. He and I have a lifelong friendship too. Stuart and I have a friendship.
You still, yeah.
Yeah.
What play did you do in high school that you remember that you thought was the...
Mostly it wasn't that. I wrote, he was just all over me, he let me do, so I wrote this spring musical that we did in the spring, and then we made this movie together, which I helped to write and cut and everything.
That's still around.
It was called The Sprung Spur. It was a Western satire. So it was funny. It's still funny, I think. I don't see it. I haven't seen it for 6 years.
Do you have a copy of it?
Probably somewhere, because he did. But we did a lot, and then I stuff. He was classic. It's more about taking a group of kids and allowing them to express themselves and not be in danger, not have to be good, not have to steal the show or be funny or be wonderful, and do exercises in his class. And then he put on a play, we put on a senior, I wanted to put on Picnic, the play I'd seen, but the board or whomever would not allow that. Picnic, William Inn, a great play in the 50s.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Okay, if you were asked to give a 60-second, 1-minute graduation speech to the kids who are going to be graduating from Harvard today, what advice would you give them?
Go to a sock hop. Now. I'd say, even though it seems like, it's such a cliche, and the reason it's a cliche is because it's true. You just listen to yourself. You are the freest people that have ever existed in the history of the world. This is a time you're an American. You're totally free. You can do whatever you want. And you have expectations, and you know what's going on. You've got everything before you. And seize the day. That's what I think, carpe diem. Carpe diem. But seize it the way you want to seize it. And seize the day that you see. Don't seize somebody else's day, seize your day. Nice. I think it's all about, I think the only way we come to the harmony of all of us being one, which we are, whether we think so or not, that you can become an individual in the wholeness, in the unity of the whole. And that's what gives the whole, if you pardon the expression, is diversity. But it makes the whole greater than the sum of its parts, because each part is unto itself, but yet committed to the whole. I have to be an individual to be an actor, totally, I do my own thing, but I don't exist without an audience. I don't exist without a play. So I'm just the one on stage doing all the talking. But we're all in it together. We're all in it together, and the sooner the universe earns it. I can say it at 78. All this nationality and all this stuff and all this blah, 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 blah. It's all bullshit. Yeah. We're all human, and we all have a capacity for love. And if you don't get that, you don't reach out, you don't love in a gentle, compassionate, generous way, then what's the point? Because the universe will it brush you aside anyway. You're gone anyway. What difference does it make? But if you understand.
No, that's good. That's great advice. You should. Can you come tonight and do the speech for them? They need to hear those kinds of things.
I think I tend to dwell on the sock hop.
Well, that's fine too.
What does being inducted into the Newport Harbor High School Hall of Fame mean to you?
I happen to spend 4 years here, and I'm not saying that this is a better place to have spent those 4 years than any place else. I could have spent them in Paris, maybe. I could have spent them. I can think of all kinds of shit, but the fact that I spent it here and I was able to be free and become myself and not be hindered by all the stuff that Orange County may be now in the fiction of it as it exists in the rest of the world. I don't know. It was a very free place. I love being here. I love the people. I love the combat of it, you know, taking on the principal of the city who was also honored today, you know, and the vice principal and fighting for what, you know, and I just think mostly the other people, the kids and the teachers, everybody, we were all in it together. We were all trying to grow up together. It's a hard time. 14 to 18 is crucial.
It is.
Once I was 18, I was done. When I was out of here, I was, you know, quitting college and going to New York and doing it. I was done. But the 14 to 18 was the time.
It's the years you remember the most in life, practically.
Yeah.
For a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
Okay, I was reading the New York Times recently, and I can't remember who the actor was, but he said, "There's one movie I did, I hope nobody ever sees. I'm so embarrassed by it."
Oh, you want me to name that movie?
Yeah, one.
Oh, how much time you got? No, I was in Pasadena, and I had to raise a family. I had 2 kids, so it was a television series, a real piece of crap. It was some kids thing, and I was playing this ultra villain. And it was 120 degrees in the basement of this house in Pasadena. And I'm shooting this absolute, you know, worse than a soap opera, worse, but they paid me well. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? What the fuck is this?
So you hope nobody sees it.
Yeah. The Red Hand Gang.
Okay, Red Hand.
Yeah, that was.
Write that down.
Okay.
Yeah, and it came on every, you know, for 15 minutes. I don't know when it came out. I was just, oh, please. Even the thought of it today.
Well, you've had so many good ones.
And I was trying to be evil.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and for talking
Thank you
to
for
us.
taking the
We
time.
so really, very much
We're really
appreciate
honored
it.
that you would spend the time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
And I'm
You
glad
were
to
to a lot of-
fulfilled your junior high.
Well, I'm George Shades, class of 40, no, 50, yeah. And it's fun looking at all the old pictures. Wonder where all those guys went, you know? And, that was kind of fun. Yeah, so 50 was a busy year around here.
Yeah.
Orange Coast just opened, and
That's right,
some of the kids went to Stanford, and then the rest of us went to Orange Coast. That was kind of fun.
What's one of your happiest or most memorable moments from your days at Harbor?
Well, probably a lot of baseball memories. I played varsity ball here, and that was kind of fun.
Who was coaching?
Because I originally came from Michigan, and you know, been playing ball back there. When I came out here, it was a matter of getting used to all that. So.
Who was the coach then? I think.
Oh, Elston Howard, I think.
Oh.
I think he was the ag teacher.
Okay.
Houston was his name. And, he was a nice guy, and, but he was just doing a job. He didn't know much about baseball. He sort of ran things. And then Eustace Rojas was a JV coach. He was a music teacher. And he was a good guy. He knew absolutely nothing about baseball. He used to come up and say, what should I do in this situation, you know?
And then you would tell them.
Yeah, we tell them, you know, so. That was good.
Well, how did you move from baseball to art? How did you get interested in art? Was there a certain teacher that?
Well, surprising how many ball players are artists.
Really?
Yeah, you know, as you go through this stuff, you begin to see that, you know. Years ago, I was up at Disney's, and we were doing some stuff for, I think it was on Tarzan or something, so it's been away. And there was a young guy in there who was a former ball player. He drew the most beautiful elephants dancing you've ever seen.
Wow.
And he could draw any animal in these beautiful poses and stuff.
Well, did you take an art class here at Harvard that
Oh yeah,
inspired you?
that was another fabulous thing, because California offered art classes where I came from. The closest thing to art was architecture, which the closest thing to architecture that class was. They had a few books that had something to do with architecture, and we copied them, you know.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was really a different way to look at education.
Yeah.
California was really developing at that time, I think. And so when I got here, it was just a miracle. Shirley Rice, well, that was a later name, but she was the art teacher here.
Shirley Berry when I met her.
Shirley
Berry was her name when I came in the
That must have been later even still.
Yeah, she got married.
Yeah, because Rice was her former
Was it her
name,
name?
I think, and then, and she was just a kid out of high school herself. Her name was Shirley Laurie. And, yeah, so I wonder what happened to Shirley. You got all these marriages. And,
yeah, kept changing names.
Yeah.
So you continued studying art at Orange Coast?
Oh, God. Well, that was another funny thing, too, because I had no idea, you know, as a kid coming up, what are you going to do with yourself?
Right.
And I wanted to be an artist, but it was like speaking out loud, you know. So I went out to Orange Coast to get my advisement, and they put me all in general education courses. And it was just routine. I always remember sitting out under a tree, like the bow tree, you know, and had to be an enlightenment. I don't want any of this stuff, you know. So I went back, and the counselor was very generous and said, well, if we're going to do that, you're going to have to be a special student. So I spent 2 years at Orange Coast taking nothing but art courses.
Wow.
But at the same time, I hadn't taken any general education or any of that stuff. So then from Orange Coast, I went into art school and went around another year. And then I began to think seriously what I'm going to do with my life in terms of art. Now you don't just walk into jobs with art. And so as it turned out, I was fortunate in that respect to had the sense to get into college. And I went back to Long Beach. I got a BA, and then finalizing that with an MA, and that let me get back into teaching. And somewhere in there, the draft caught me. And I went and I spent another 2 years drawing for the Army.
That would have been just between Korea and Vietnam.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So
But the Army was a good learning experience too, because we had different kind of, I could put the commercial art idea to work. And then I was also interested in the fine art side. And so I was, me and myself and some other buddies, we used to do fine art anyway. And then we started showing it in the Army, and the Army loved it because it was PR for them. So they start shipping it for us and doing all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it
Free
worked out,
publicity.
yeah, it worked out really well, and we were doing quite well.
Okay.
And, yeah, so that was it. So I don't know if that's a long, short answer to your question.
That's great.
So we want to talk a little bit about your painting being added to being the only alumnus.
Excuse me, I'm a little
Yeah.
deaf, so.
Your painting here in the collection at Newport Harbor. Can you talk about how that felt when you won that prize?
Big deal. Because you have to recognize that Ruth Fleming had put that together. And as high school students, we were the kids that came down and held the paintings while the judges made a decision, and then put them in refuse pile. And the refuse pile was pretty big, you know.
Yeah, right.
So winning that years later was quite a startling kind of thing for me, and that was my first major prize, because this was pretty serious stuff here. What was going on with that show? If you look at all those guys, they're all in the books and so forth who won that thing, and So, and in the meantime, I'd gotten scholarships to go with Rex Brandt, and Dyke, and all those fellows at Brandt's summer school. And so I spent 4 summers with Rex and all the people that he attracted to be a part of his summer school. So it was just like having a who's who in art education and watercolor.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really pretty amazing when I look back on it. And none of my contemporaries had anything like that. You know, so I learned mostly about their philosophy, their attitudes, their ideas, what it took to be a person and be an artist, and what kind of work ethic you needed and so forth to do it, and spend time with it and all of that. So they were major players in my kind of view. But at the same time, that was when I was at Long Beach, and Long Beach and most higher education was moving into abstract expressionism. So the attitudes in art were shifting. So as a young kid, I was caught between my roots, which were now Bracken, Brandt, and Dyke, and all those fellows. Now I'm stuck with Pollock and all these other fellas, you know, who are quite different. And it wasn't hard to understand what was going on, but it was also that we were being left behind. So, and then much of the curriculum in Long Beach was dedicated to all that contemporary stuff. So I learned the contemporary stuff, but at the same time I was still playing that wonderful attitude toward art and life and sunshine and all that stuff. Yeah, so.
I was going to say, do you have any particular memory of Ruth Stover Fleming? Do you have memories of Ruth Stover Fleming, the
librarian who started the...
oh, Ruth?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she was a sweetheart.
Oh, was she?
Yeah. She loved the fact that we were art students, and she took special care of us. She was always talking to us about art and stuff like that. And not only myself, but others interested in the thing. We had some pretty good people, you know. And she was just wonderful. And of course, she worked us into the getting to know those artists. And I remember occasionally we had a chance to meet all the judges personally, and they were all superstars themselves.
Some of the names.
And so that was kind of interesting too. And that was all because of Ruth. And I know she struggled with it because it was always getting the money together. Because I think it was $500 for an oil painting and $250 for a watercolor. So my prize was $250. It was kind of like
that painting, $250?
Yeah, $250. It's kind of like sexism or something. it was really, it doesn't happen anymore.
You didn't use oil.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But that was the attitudes of those times at the time. Watercolors always had to fight for a seat at the table.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's always been popular, but it's never been just in itself. The problem with watercolor was it was just a subject unto itself. And with painting, it was always the subject within whatever you did, whatever medium. And so those of us who progressed now through the watercolor maze, we try to make that part of it what you're painting, not how you're painting it. And that was a different kind of attitude. And that's been a hard fight. It was a long time getting that kind of recognized.
But you're one of the ones that got you to the table.
Well, and not myself. I've got good friends all over the country who, when we get together, you know, through workshops or the two main watercolor associations are American Watercolor Society and the National Watercolor Society. They're the two main ones, and I've been a member of those for a number of years. And so the people at banquets, and they had won prizes, or I had won one or something, we'd always get our heads together and start talking about stuff. You know. That's where we get these common ideas. Not that we live next door or 2 miles away or something. Yeah, and it still is hard because some of my best friends are in Minnesota and another friend's up in the high mountains in Colorado. I've never been to his house, and I don't know if I want to because it's cold up there.
On a slightly different track, if you had 1 minute, what would you tell the students graduating today? What advice would you give the current Newport Harbor students?
The students are doing it. It isn't the end of your world. It's just a stepping stone. And don't be afraid if you don't know something about what you want to be. It'll come. You just get into college or next step or a job where you can start breathing the air of what you want to do. And that's, I think, the best thing I could advise. I don't think it's important to have to graduate from Stanford anymore, you know. If you don't need Stanford, you know, you don't feel Stanford, if you don't have whatever it takes to be there, you know, I don't know. God,
That's great advice, because a lot of those kids didn't get Stanford.
yeah, I know.
They'd be glad to hear that.
I know. And especially with theater today, my gosh, you can go up and audition and be around. My daughter's been really a good example of that. She went here, and then she graduated from here, and then went to Cal State Fullerton and took an MA, or MA, yeah, and then she went to Irvine and picked up an MFA. And then one day she said, I'm off to New York. Away she went.
Good for her.
And she got jobs just like any young actress would and so forth. And then she reached the point too where she wanted to do something else besides acting. So she got a job at Loyola and University in
Chicago?
Yeah,
There's one in Chicago, there's one in Los Angeles.
Yeah, but it's in New Orleans.
Oh, down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then she decided after that big not earthquake, but hurricane they had. She said,
Katrina.
this is my school.
Yeah.
Move on. So she went back to New York, and then she started working at Rutgers. And then from Rutgers, she applied to a job at Fullerton. And we were all surprised she got it. So
did you teach with her?
Yeah, she teaches her now. She's got her degree and her tenure and everything. And she's quite a good teacher.
Okay. Well, I'm sure
We're all very proud of her for what she does.
I think it's mutual.
Yeah.
Okay.
My son, his life was very different, but yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Did I go over my minute?
No, I was going to say, we have sort of a kind of on the same lines. What does being inducted into the Hall of Fame mean to you?
What does it mean to me? Well, until it came, I had no feelings about it. I never knew about that kind of stuff. So,
Neither did we. It's our first time.
well, my first thought was, why are they picking me? You know, because when you're doing this stuff, you don't think about, you know, all that stuff. And so and then one of my good friends in high school was Jim Seeley, and Jim went on to be an admiral or something, and I hadn't seen him since high school, and you know, things like that. You wonder what happened to all the rest of those wonderful people. Yeah. And so now my next thing is in that flyer, they want to know recommendations. I just want to put in a good word for some people.
Who would you pick? Who's your first choice?
Who, what?
Who would you pick for next year for Hall of Fame?
Well, I was trying to figure Don Cantrell.
Don Cantrell, yeah, he got into journalism.
Yeah, he was a quarterback here.
Yeah.
Got a scholarship to some college up in Oregon or something. And then went back to Long Beach. And in the newspaper business, that's where he was. He went from the Daily Pilot to the Register. He really went. At one time, he was the chief editor of the Tombstone Press or something, and until it closed. But the thing is, he's been very loyal to this school. He's the one who keeps in touch with everybody.
Right.
And he's writing things and always putting, I don't know where he keeps his scrapbooks or something, where he gets this stuff. But it's not showy, you know, and so I don't know if Don will recommend it in that respect. That was one thought I had when I saw that today.
That's a good recommendation.
That's a great recommendation.
Yeah, it might be a thought.
I've heard his name most of my career. So
yeah, well, a lot of people here would recognize it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's probably responsible for a lot of the little articles and stuff.
Yes, we're always referring to something that was written by Don. So, yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing the way he would sit down and write stuff. And when he worked at the Globe Herald, in those days it was the Globe Herald, and then because he knew me and all, he'd do a big article. Next thing I know, big spread, and what was that about? You know, we're just the young kids, you know, and all that. And then Orange Coast was a big influence on me, especially teachers there. Bill Whitney was a big teacher there, and then Bill, I can't think of it. I can't remember his last name. Bill Payne.
So you're saying it doesn't matter where you go to school as long as you find your niche.
Yeah, you find, and Bill, what I landed on Bill Whitney was that he talk by like squeezing at a lemon or something. He'd get it out of you, and it was like about intangibles, like feeling and taste, and all the things that go into give you a look, taking a look at the quality of the times, the society, all the things that are going on at a given time. And we would explore all that stuff through drawings and paintings and stuff. And then as the times changed, you were ready for it because you could see it coming all the way. So you always had a sense of where the culture was going. So by the time we got around to pop art, we all knew all about that stuff, And then it moved into, abstract expression, all that stuff. So, which is a lot of PR and baloney, but it was something to have to understand because it was infiltrating the art world. It had a lot to do with the color of your tie. At times, there was a time when you wouldn't you wouldn't wear that color tie. It just wasn't in fashion, or you couldn't buy it, So, that kind of thing. Yeah. But so with Bill's classes, he'd have stacks of fashion magazines, contemporary magazines of popular mechanics, just as long as you had to know where things were and how things were about. So you learn that way, not through a textbook.
Well, that's inspiring too, because I feel like textbooks are the least important thing in an education.
Really. I tell you the truth, that is the truth. And over the years, I've been part of other people's textbooks. They want my word to be in their textbook, and I laugh to myself. I hope I'm coming across as something that they can learn from. So forth.
You are.
Yeah.
You're that kind of a person.
All those crazy things.
We are so honored to have you in the Hall of Fame. And
the what?
We're honored to have you in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, well, thank you.
And you richly deserve to be it.
Your wife?
Yeah, she's
married.
Married.
Yeah.
Good memory. Yeah.
We met originally at Starbucks.
Yeah, that's what my dad was saying. He's my old coffee buddy.
I just knew his name was George. I didn't know that you were an artist.
And you guys were always out to Europe or something, and then
yeah, he did a lot of traveling.
Your daughter,
that's me.
Yeah,
you were always doing something.
She was a lot younger in those days.
Yeah.
And then you were kind of a force here because I remember you're taking a lot of energy into video and computers at the time.
Right. I did. Yeah. I mean, you were taking an animation class at
Yeah.
Orange Coast. I thought, okay, if you could do that, I can do that. It's fun. It's just.
And it was great fun and all that stuff. Unfortunately, it doesn't have anything to do with my life these days, but I understand it.
It added to you. It made you part of who you are. So.
And especially when you get working with youngsters at Cal State Fuller who want to go into that field, at least you have some information to give them and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
But the studios were always great for us because they were always willing to give tours and talk to people and stuff. Even give us, as a department, a lot of the equipment that they had outgrown. And, so that was neat.
You said one time when we were going through the art collection, you said that Disney had a major impact on the young artists of California.
Yeah.
And did it impact the style of California art, do you think?
Place the word.
The bright
But
colors.
then a lot of, out of Disney came all those other kinds of things, Pixar and other studios and so forth. And they came out, and then, of course, they weren't hiring. And then from out of those studio shops, it all broke down into piecework, which then small groups like our students would get together and be good enough to pick up piecework. Right. And then from there, they'd work their way into studios and so forth. So, and that's kind of where it is today, I think. When you see some big special effects, they made that effect without even knowing where the heck it was going to go.
They were one part of it.
Yeah. It's all piecework, so. Yeah, it's interesting stuff, so.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for...
We appreciate who you are and that you're also now in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for taking your time.
Yeah, okay.
My name is Don Miata, and I graduated in 1942.
Okay, and are there any moments at Harvard that are like the changing point or your peak moments while you were here in high school?
Not really. I thought it was generally very good. No real peak moments, but everything was very favorable because we had excellent teachers and we got along with them very well, and the student body was they were our friends, you know.
Do you
And
have?
we knew just about everybody.
It was a small school then.
Right, 100 per class.
100 per class, wow.
Are there any teachers in particular that you made a big impact on you?
Well, Roy Anderson was one of them, and he was not only an excellent teacher, but I thought an excellent person. He was a University of Cal graduate, and he used to take part in the hurdles in track, and you could see that he was about 6'3" or 6'4", tall, lanky fellow, and you could see that he could be a track man.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
He was one, and Ralph Reed, the coach, he was always very nice to us, and you could tell he was pretty smart. You know, you saw the write-up where he lowered the time of one of the runners
during practice.
right during practice, so that the guy would run faster.
Yeah.
Well, that was I would say characteristic of him.
Good psychology.
Right.
Yeah.
In our gym class, he would do decathlons. We would have to run every sport in the decathlon event, and I think that was simply to get who were the good track people in our gym classes who he would be able to recruit for his track team. Right. He was cagey.
He knew what he was doing.
Right, he knew what he was doing, right. Yeah, Ralph Reed was a very, very nice person.
That's neat.
Right.
So, how was it? I mean, here you were being suddenly yanked out of the high school and put in a camp. It must have had quite an emotional impact on you.
Well, yes, I think it did, right. I wasn't happy about it.
No, I'm sure you
Yeah,
weren't.
you know, and for one, we, among ourselves, discussed whether, you know, will they yank us out or will they let us stay, you know, and allow the farms to go on.
Yeah.
And I was of the belief that they would leave us alone. I didn't think they would.
So you were
Yeah.
surprised.
Surprised, yes.
How many Japanese Americans were in the school at the time?
Offhand, I would say there were maybe about 30.
30 out of
Four classes.
So it was very agricultural. So
Yes, very agricultural. They came from primarily the group between Laguna Beach and Newport Beach and Costa Mesa. So there were essentially two groups of Japanese, Costa Mesa and those people down Crystal Cove area.
right, right. And you all wound up in
All-
Arizona.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it was a very sad time, and it's an embarrassing time for our
Well,
country.
it was a very hard time.
Yeah.
It was a hard time for us because we knew how much the parents put into the farm and, you know, worked the farm. We knew they sacrificed a great deal.
Right.
And we knew that with this, it would probably mean the end of their farming career.
And it
And it
probably
was,
did
it
for
was,
a lot of
right.
them.
Nobody went back to that area. And I gave, what's her name? Diana
Long.
a booklet prepared by Alexa Clausen in 2006 from the state of California. And it's a booklet about like that, and it describes the life of the Japanese Americans above Crystal Cove. But that's no more because all you see now is $1 million homes up there.
If only you could have held on to that.
Yeah, no. Irvine is too smart for that.
How long were you in the camp before you enlisted or got drafted, or you went into the Army?
Well, I first went out to, let's see, they wanted farm workers out in the western states like Idaho, Montana, Utah, Colorado. And so we left the camp in April 43, which would mean that I stayed in camp about 11 months then.
You mean your whole family went?
No, just me and my brother.
You and your brother.
Right. And then after the agricultural work, you know, is sort of like snowbirds. We went back to camp in Arizona for a couple months, November, December, and in mid-January, my brother and I went to Detroit to work in the defense factory. And then in April '44, we were drafted at the same time.
So you were about 19 or 20 at the time?
I was at 18 when I was drafted.
Oh.
Right.
And then you went right.
44, no, 19. 19.
And then you went to the European theater?
Yes, we trained in Camp Landing, basic training. Then we went to Camp Shelby, just for additional training. Right. And in November we went to overseas. November '44.
Tough times.
We went to Greenock, Scotland. Went right down England on the train, right down to Southampton. Now, Southampton, we boarded a ship to go to Le Havre, France.
Oh. Right. So this is after D-Day. They'd already.
Oh yes.
You didn't want to be there for that.
You don't want to fool around with that.
No, that was not a fun time.
You said before that you got your diploma from Newport Harbor High School while you were in Poston. What did you feel when you got that diploma in the internment camp?
Well, I felt very happy to get it and very gratified because it meant that I won't have to repeat my senior year anyplace. Yeah. And also, if you're looking for jobs, they ask, do you have a high school diploma? And you're able to say, yes, I do. It was a real convenience. There are other people who were not able to get the diploma, even though they were the same seniors at the same time. And those people had to go back to camp school with their makeshift classrooms and pick up faculty members, and so it was rough for them, right? Yeah, so I was very gratified to have that diploma.
I think Americans like to think that we've moved past that, that we would never do that again.
Well, I think most Americans were of that.
Oh yeah, at the time.
Right, but I think we had some very vociferous, competitive farmers or ranchers, you might say, who coveted the property and farms that those people had. Yeah. And if they were able to get them out and not bring them back, they would have first dibs on those properties. And a lot of it was, I think, greed.
But could that happen again, do you think? I mean, is there
I think we are moving much more toward a state that the Bill of Rights provides and the Constitution provides. Right. We're moving much more towards the ideals of those documents.
If you were going to give a 1-minute graduation speech to students today, what advice would you give them as they go off into their lives? Yeah.
Well, I would tell them to thank their parents and the faculty of the high school that they're in, and that from now on, more and more of the course will have to be charted by the students themselves. So it would take responsibility, and it'd be a matter of making mistakes and making games, and you'd have to be able to live with all those things.
That's good advice.
What does being inducted into the Hall of Fame mean to you personally?
Well, I had no thoughts whatsoever of. In fact, I still don't think that I'm as deserving as some of the others that I know. So it really means that thank you very much, Diana Long, for nominating me.
No, it's not just Diana Long, it's all of us. And
Oh.
we're very proud to have you as one
Thank
of
you.
our Hall of Famers. And we're proud to have you at graduation this afternoon.
Right, thank you.
I look forward to that very, very much. And I think I have a senior class, and I told them about your story, and they said they can't imagine you not being there, and that you've made their graduation very special.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, so thank you
Thank them.
for walking with them. You're an amazing man. We're proud to have you part of our student body.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to say to anybody, or?
No, just that I'm very grateful to all the teachers that I've had over here. They were very encouraging, they were nice to us, they were informative, and I thought they were really top notch.
Earlier today, the Newport Harbor High School Alumni Association inducted its first Hall of Fame class. The 15 individuals are listed in the back of this year's graduation program. 72 years ago today, the class of 1942 graduated from Newport Harbor High, but not all the seniors were in attendance that year. One of our Hall of Fame inductees, Dr. Don Miata, missed his graduation because just weeks before graduation, he and his family were moved to Poston War Relocation Center, a Japanese internment camp in Arizona. Despite this, Dr. Miata went on to serve in World War II with the 442nd Regimental Combat Team in the European Theater, was awarded a Congressional Gold Medal for his service valor, and later became a longtime chemistry professor at the University of California, Irvine. Dr. Miata. On behalf of the Newport Harbor High School Class of 2014, its faculty, staff, students, and Alumni Association, as well as the Newport Mesa Unified School District, please join us on stage, which you have, so we may finally properly award you your diploma from Newport Harbor High School. Don Miata.